Happy Devil's Wednesday. This is the State of the Fan Address. I'm your host, Sam Wu, here with Pucks and Pitchforks blog editor-in-chief Nick Villano, streaming live on Facebook Live, Twitter Live, YouTube Live, and Twitch on the Primetime Radio Network. Tonight's episode 105 is titled Devil's Jekyll and Hyde Gameplay. Yeah, if you saw the game last night, scoring 6 goals in the third period, but still winding up losing outright. It was 2 solid 2 points for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Nick, why don't you start off this podcast? We're just gonna be podcasting. We're gonna be talking. We're gonna have conversations. We're gonna have brilliant ideas, and I have a feeling we're gonna be bantering pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we talked about getting a guest on, but I missed last week. So I appreciate Beer Baron, right? Beer Baron came in, and because I listened to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, where you should all subscribe and give us 5 stars, but I don't think he ever introduced himself, and I'm pretty sure it was Beer Baron based on the voice, but you know how sometimes the voice sounds different on the live broadcast than it does.
You know what it was?
On the Apple
you know what it was?
Well, what?
It was an AI configurated Beer Baron impersonator that was on because no, I'm just kidding around. But yeah, you know what? Actually, Nick, I don't know if you could tell. You probably did when you listened to it. We had more technical issues in the first 25 minutes that we never have. So I was off my game. It didn't help that I kicked the cable out on the phone.
Yeah, it wasn't great.
It wasn't exactly. And Beer Baron, I'll tell you what, he hung in there like a champion. He's like, he didn't give up. Just kind of like our New Jersey Devils. That was a beautiful segue.
He's definitely did his part, and I appreciate him for stepping up from the dishes, getting away from those dishes. I hate the dishes, Sam, but it's one of my jobs in my household, so I appreciate him walking away from them dishes and coming in hosting a podcast. It was a big podcast. Chris Ryan was really good. Corey Masek was really good. They both did a great job, and I appreciate you both. And it's funny because, when I send them, when I send our, interviewees, these are the questions I'm thinking of asking just so they can have the research ready and all that. You tried to read them in my voice because I was, a little rushed to do everything, obviously. And I just sent you the copy paste of what I sent to them. So you were trying to read it in the Nick Villano way, but I have a very strange thought process into a lot of these things. But again, I appreciate you guys filling in for me. The interviews were great. The episode worked out great. Beer Baron had a lot of good follow-ups, and I really enjoyed listening to it on my drive to South Florida. So it was good. It was good. It was a nice little. I was stressed when the cable broke. I was sitting here like, oh no, what's going on? I didn't get any messages. Hope nobody's mad, but. Corey came back on. Everything went good, so I appreciate that. But we do have Devils hockey to talk about. That game was something last night, Sam. I don't know. I don't know how to feel. I obviously didn't watch a ton of hockey, as people who follow me on Twitter will know, because usually I'm very active on social media, and I just wasn't the past couple of days. I'm back. I'm in full swing. I watched the game last night, but I know that the Devils did something similar where they went down big on, Saturday and Sunday. They went down big, came back, made it a game. I think they tied it both games, right? They tied both the Saturday and Sunday game. And then,
I don't remember.
They at least had the Sunday game, and then they lost both games. They were both close games until empty net goals kind of ended it. I don't know what you can take from these games, Sam, because it's clear the teams are taking the foot off the gas. and they're kind of sitting back and they're playing. And we saw this when we used to play the Capitals. You can't sit back against an NHL team, against NHL talent, because they're going to score. The Penguins just couldn't turn the gas on again. Only Crosby was the guy who was playing what it seemed like at full speed. And he ended up scoring in the third period, which was the difference in the game. But, I mean, this team has moxie. This team has, they make adjustments, which I like. I think that Lindy Ruff focuses too much in the intermission, because it seems like they, from the first to the second period, we focused on stopping them from scoring, and that doesn't always, help when you're down 4. You need to get goals. And then in the third period, you focus on, well, we're down 6, so who cares how many more they score? Let's just go and play our game and shoot the puck. If we did that from the beginning, I correct me if I'm wrong, I think we only had 4 shots in the first period. So it was, if we just did that from the beginning, we just tried to play our game. I think we focused too much on stopping Crosby. We don't have Zajac anymore. So, that's not, part of our game. Just play your game. And you look at one of the goals in the third period. I think it was the 5th, but it started with a play, or maybe it was the 6th. No, actually, it was the 6th. It was a 6th goal with about 40 seconds left. It all started with Will Butcher knocking the puck away from Crosby in the offensive zone and getting it to Janssen behind the net. Janssen behind the net. And Janssen just threw it at the net from behind the net. It hit off of Jari's skate, and all of a sudden we have a 1-goal game with 40 seconds left. So, there were decisions I wish they made better. Yeah. There's a lot of positives to take. There's still a lot of negatives. The goalie situations in a bad way. I mean, Mackenzie Blackwood is, according to goals saved above average, the 4th worst goalie in the league. I don't think that those stats tell the whole story, but it tells that he doesn't have a ton of confidence in his team. It tells me that he has issues that need to be fixed, and there's a lot to just take, and there's nobody behind Blackwood that I think is, I wrote a couple weeks ago that I thought that Wedgwood deserved a second contract. I think they're going to give it to him just because they need to expose a goalie in the expansion draft, right? Or maybe they give it to Dell, but either way, they're going to. I think they're going to sign one of them, and they're going to expose them, and then they're going to sign another goalie in in free agency to be the backup. Because there's no backup in the system right now. There's no backup in this franchise. There's 2 third goalies. Both Dell and Wedgwood are fine third goalies that you place in we'll talk about that in a bit, but you place in the minors and you just let them sit there and play some, and then when you need an NHL goalie, you bring them up, because I don't think anybody's going to claim either of them. But you need a better backup. You really needed Corey Crawford this year. Crawford would have been clutch this season, and he retired. And it was one of the many things that went wrong this year. But, at least there's something. Sam, I said I wanted the team to be fun. And somewhat fun. It sucks to lose, but they're going to lose. At least they're fun in the third. Gives us something to watch.
Yeah, well, this has been just kind of like the ongoing theme. Lack of consistency in play. Why wait to the third period? But at the same time, you can make an argument that other teams are just letting off the gas pedal and letting them come back. Not so much, allowing goals on purpose, but really, it's a long sprint of a season. This is not your typical NHL season. With 56 games compacted, we're already in April. Normally this time of year, the first round of the playoffs, Stanley Cup playoffs, have started. But right now, the NHL is going to try to finish out the season. What I'm looking for, I think right now, unless you're Benji, this team's not making the playoffs. I think they're already mathematically eliminated.
They're mathematically out. The loss yesterday made it impossible, physically impossible.
Yeah. But at the same time, they are Buffalo's just on the verge of passing the New Jersey Devils, and it could happen. And the Devils could be possibly the worst team in the NHL record-wise. When I would have expected maybe at best NHL 500 is what Scotty alludes to, but they're not even close. You can say, okay, new regime, new coaching, lack of practices, the COVID thing, the 16-day stoppage, start and restart, some freak injuries to the captain, a lot of things. But I got to tell you, Nick, if this was like one of those odd years where the team had been making the playoffs year after year, and this is just one of those fluke years, okay, whatever. Or maybe 2 or 3 years of no playoffs. With the exception of one MVP season of Taylor Hall, I see no path to success other than potential. It's going to happen. Just wait, be more patient. Where does that red line, where do you draw the line in the sand as a fan? I used a word, and I use a corporate word, by the way, a couple times on the post games. This is unacceptable. You know that corporate word? Unacceptable. Yeah. Because honestly, I figured the team would perform better than this. I don't think it's the players. I think it goes above the players. I don't think it's totally on the coaches. They're working with what they have and given the circumstances. I think, honestly, it's the whole organizational as a whole. And we talked about it, and I goof around about the Mickey Mouse thing and all that kind of stuff. But honestly, it's starting to look like that to me. And till something, changes, it's more than just winning, because there are all a bunch of issues that I'm not liking. I'm just trying to be honest. I don't want to bash people within the organization, because we're not bashing type podcasts. But we will have that. We will have that tough conversation. Like, where is this all going here? Because my money's invested in season tickets. I have an emotional vested interest. We do this podcast. Yeah, we have fun. We laugh. We cry. We argue. But it's starting to get to the point. Like, what's the point of? Like, what are we trying to? What's the goal here? Where's? Like, is there a milestone? Like, is there like an action plan? Like, where are we supposed to be next year? Because I think we're at least 3 years away of making the playoffs.
You think we're that far?
Honestly, Scotty and I could debate, but yeah, and it's not because of talent. It's not because of talent. I just think there's lack of focus and a non-winning mindset. I think the talent's there. I think the coaching's there. And because I can't figure it out, I just think it's an entire, I mean, look, we talked about their marketing. I think the marketing is great, but right now I think the focus should be on winning, because if your marketing is great, all your marketing is a losing team. I want to market a winning team. Winning solves everything. It'll solve your sales, gate receipts, viewership. People will be eating up Amanda Stein and Chris Westcott's content more because they have something happy to report about, such as winning big, having bragging rights. Like, say if they won 4 straight against the Rangers, oh my goodness, it'll be a happy Devils week. But instead,
4. Can I get 1?
Yeah.
You couldn't get one. You couldn't get one win against the Rangers. Like, that's pathetic, Sam. And I was gonna remember we were talking about it before the season, and things kind of got a little weird. And it ended up being the trade deadline and things like that. But remember, I was talking about it. We were going to do a big expose on the Devils-Rangers rivalry. Heck, I'm glad I didn't do that. I'm glad we didn't end up doing that on the podcast, because it's like, you know, that this reminds me of when Pedro Martinez came out and called the Yankees his daddy. Like, I guess we got to come out and call the Rangers her daddy, because, like, that was a drubbing, Sam. Like, that was pathetic. That series was pathetic. And there was no fight in the beginning of those games. And they just, every game we came out, and they just, I don't know if there was nerves. I don't know if there was, or what it was, but every game you knew they were going to be down 3-0 in the first period. Every game.
What was my highlight? Do you know what was my highlight?
What?
Lose Islanders taking care of business like how we should be.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, I mean, you know,
I have a lot. Yeah, we have a lot of Rangers followers, and it's funny, and you know, they come in and they talk, and like, it's fine, but all we did was get your hopes up to lose. You're not catching the Bruins. You're not catching the Islanders. You're not catching the Penguins. You're not catching the Capitals. So all you did was just give yourself worse lottery odds and give yourself hope, so it hurts more. We're flying high because we scored 6 goals in the third period and lost. What are you timing out?
Well, I just want to interject. Lottery, the guy that's with the remote control staring at that lottery ball, he should be blindfolded. But also, you know, with the Rangers, I mean, the Ranger fans, I will say, just the sentiment this past week, feel so bad for us that they're actually being nice and funny about this whole thing.
I mean, like, how can you be mean?
We're that bad that the Ranger fans, like, it's like being charitable. That's not supposed to happen on a Hudson City. I'm thinking Hudson City Savings. Right? The Hudson River rivalry. You know, it's like I when I think of rivalry, I think about trash talking, calling Madison Square Garden a dump, the most famous, you know, train station that's about to get demolished. Yeah, that's all it is. Station. Yeah, you know, but you know, and you know, I saw some emotion out of our young players, but I want to see them really hate these guys and really take it personally. And that emotion is out. And also what's really heartbreaking is listening to Ken Danico, calling these games. Because you can tell in his voice, it's almost like he's embarrassed.
Well, I mean, how could he not be?
Yeah, and hurting inside. And I actually feel really bad about that, because I can tell that he wants to get out there himself and play.
He's supposed to punch somebody.
Yeah.
He gets all excited when there's fights. It's funny. I love that. I love that about Dano. I want to shift gears real quick, though. I got to talk about this Binghamton thing, because we've been talking for 20 minutes already, and I gotta get this Binghamton thing off my chest. Okay, do you mind?
You know what, Nick? I'm going to put myself on mute so I don't interrupt you, because I want you to let it out, because I know it's been bothering you. But I'll be listening.
How do you screw this up so bad if you're the Devils? No, like, honestly, like, you're supposed to bring joy to this fan base, and you're trying to build a fan base in the number one media market in the damn world. You're supposed to be in the New York media market fighting the Islanders and the Rangers for fans every game. You are the only team in the 4 major sports that claims the Garden State. New Jersey fans. You talk to a New Jersey person who doesn't live in New Jersey anymore, and they will fight for that state tooth and nail till death. You take those fans, the passions of those fans, and you give us pathetic on-ice hockey for 7 of the past 8 years. Pathetic. There are times where Mike Camilleri is the best player on the team. And you're going to come and you're going to build a fan base and an AHL market that is hungry. Binghamton's hungry for Devils fans. I know a lot of people who root for the New Jersey team and travel to New Jersey from Binghamton because they want to see the people who get called up, the people they've been rooting for, the people that they go to the cheap seats, they buy the cheap beer, and they watch that Binghamton team play. And you're not even going to have the decency to make a formal announcement. You're going to make the AHL team send a weird statement on Twitter being like, well, I guess we'll give you refunds. I guess this isn't going to work out. They seemed thoroughly confused by the situation. So they're not on board. And they're tweeting it. You own them. And they don't know what's going on. Yet, you expect us to trust you with our faith in this fan base, in this team, in this youth movement. We're expected to trust you? When this is how you treat the AHL team, you've been there, 3 years? They've been in Binghamton for 3 years, team, and 2 of those teams absolutely sucked. And now you're going to move to Utica? We've been there. We've done that. It's not like it's a much different fan base, they've claimed. And I did some research for the article that I did yesterday on it. Well, it went out today. On how Lou completely bungled the move from Lowell to Albany. And then Albany didn't want to have it. We left them a couple years earlier. They were not feeling the Devils coming back. And the Devils put out press releases with canned quotes saying, it'll be different this time. We own the team this time. But they put no resources into it. They did very little to market it. And it didn't work in Albany. So they moved again to Binghamton because it's supposed to be better this time. It's going to be better this time, Sam. We got a new logo. It looks like an emoji. This is going to be fun. Let's get the kids involved. We have so many prospects. They're going to go to Binghamton. We're going to get excited. This is where stars are born. This is going to be great. It wasn't. You got a good core there in Binghamton. You got something there. It's been bad this season. And I think that it's just been a weird season. A lot of people are on the taxi squad. There's too much youth, not enough experience. And I kind of expected a little more of Dennehy, but it's okay. I think he'll be back next year, and we'll try to do this normal. But how? How, Sam? And I want you to unmute after this because I kind of want you to actually answer this. How do I trust this ownership group when they just completely stabbed a fan base in the back after building it for 3 years?
I'm going to say this, Nick, because sometimes I'm very careful what I say, that I'm concerned that somebody in ownership, Harrison Blitzer, would actually listen to this and sell the Devils to somebody in Quebec and gets moved. Like, that's my worst fear.
So here's the thing: is they can't do that. They actually can't do that. I did because I thought the same thing. I don't want to cut you off, but I just don't want this to turn into an aggregator BS thing. They can't move the team for like 15 years. So we don't have to worry about it.
Okay. But it's something that's made up in my head. I want to, they have this is not even speculation, but it's always in the back of my mind, living through the Nashville thing in the past, the arena issues in Newark or Hoboken or whatever years ago. It's in the back of my mind. It's almost like why don't you go ahead and do it already? This isn't really a hedge fund team. This is run like a hedge fund. This is all the ownership group really knows. Okay, you know what? To make it fun for the fans, why don't you have this team be publicly traded on the New York Stock Exchange? So at least I feel like I'm an owner, just to have fun and be engaged with the fans.
Wait, do we get a say then? Do we get to go to the
No.
meeting?
No. Well, we would get like a stock certificate maybe so I can hang on the wall. But we would have voting rights. We wouldn't have voting rights. I can tell you that.
What I need to know is can I be like Mr. Deeds and can I buy one stock and then go into the big owners meeting and make a big speech in front of everybody with my one stock? Can I do the Mr. Deeds?
They would never allow that because I'll tell you a reason why. Because you wouldn't even know that they have an owners meeting because they didn't even tell the Binghamton people that they were moving the team. So no, that's not going to happen. But it's just like I'm just being realistic here. This is who they are, and the patterns in the last since 2013, 2014 has always been the same. That's why I don't have confidence in winning because you know what? And I don't blame them. Don't think like they're cruel people, but hey, they just want to make some money. They want to build something. They're business people. They want to build a legacy. But to me, when it comes to hockey specifically, when it comes to sports and hockey specifically, it has to be actually, believe it or not, and this goes against all business, it has to be run like a hobby, like your passion. Remember Ed Snyder when he owned the Flyers? That guy was crazy. But you know what? The fans loved it because he wanted to win. That was their brand. He will win at all costs. George Steinbrenner, Yankees, win at all costs. He didn't care. That was their brand. Yeah. The Mets, under Wilpons, it was win without spending any money. But they couldn't do, they didn't do anything. So, but with the Devils, with Lou's legacy, a winning, and the whole concept, the team concept, that you're only as good as your weakest link, from the janitor at the building to Lou Lamoriello to the fans, we all played a part of that winning. And their mission statement was one word: win. Basically, win the Stanley Cup. This group, I just think there's just too many mixed messages. The marketing. They put a lot of money and a lot of investment in their marketing, and I got to admit, their marketing is pretty cool. But they just forgot the main thing. It's kind of like having spaghetti without the pasta. Like, where's the winning? Where's the winning here? And again, I don't want to say anything bad about Harrison Blitzer, but look, Harris is from Philly. Blitzer from Scotch Plains, that's where he was born. He could have been a Ranger fan, for all I know. Mm-hmm. There's no passion there, It's not like McMullen or Vanderbeek. Yeah.
Well, Vanderbeek, you always call him the fan owner, right? That's why we wanted to talk to him. I'm still working on that. We're still going to see if that can happen. Maybe that'll happen during the summer, but he's the fan owner, and that's why he was willing to do everything to make it work. Harris and Blitzer, when you look at how they ran the 76ers, they kind of let the sports people make the sports decisions, which is fine. We want that. We don't want somebody meddling into things and putting people in charge who are going to make bad decisions. So I appreciate that. So like the hate on the ownership for the team is a little misguided. But the owners also have to understand the position that the team is in when they make these decisions. Now, the team being bad isn't entirely their fault. It's probably a very small percentage of their fault. They've made money available. They paid Nikita Gusev and PK Subban last year. They made this money available. When they thought that they were in a window to win, they've spent. I think they probably offered Hall. I know Ray Sherrill said that they didn't talk about money, but that's BS. There's no way that they didn't mention a freaking dollar amount. I'm sure they offered Hall $10 million. You know, they have been willing to spend, which is all you can ask for from the ownership group. But what they haven't done is they have found an inability to not be tone deaf when it comes to the thought process of this fan base. This fan base is mad. And they should be. The team is bad again. Like bad, like unwatchable bad at times. You know, and the team has been fun as of late. But, you know, you force-fed Elaine Nasruddin, and I think that his issues have come up again. I think part of it has to do with the fact that he went for the head coaching job and didn't get it. And then by the time they made the decision, there was nowhere else to go for him. So he comes back. That's a weird position to be in. So I feel for him. You know, Mark Recchi comes in. We liked the move. I did. But his power play doesn't work. Let's take the power play away. Let him teach the forwards. Let him work with the young forwards. Let him focus. Lindy Ruff, take the power play. Because it hasn't worked. And you have a great offensive mind. You know, Lindy Ruff has built up some of the greatest young offensive players that are in the league right now. And he's really done a number for Jack Hughes. He really turned Igor Sharangovich into something. Quokinen has been really good. Nolan Foote has been better the second he came on New Jersey than he was in Binghamton. I can make a laundry list of smart decisions this coaching staff has made. But they haven't made the hard decision. But then they make a hard decision by moving Binghamton?
I'll tell you.
To Utica?
All right, let me tell you something. Let me try to make some sense out of it all. Like I said, this is a hedge fund. Follow the money. I don't know where the money is. I don't know what the thinking, because I don't have those numbers, but follow the money. Why did they move from Albany to Binghamton in the first place? It was
because
probably
they were operating at a
deal.
loss. Well, they were operating at a loss. I read up on this. They were operating at a loss. I think they were losing about $1 million a year in Albany. 1 to 2, somewhere in that range. And Binghamton paid the Devils $2 million to move there because the Hurricanes...
The city itself?
I think it was the city. Paid them $2 million to cover any losses they could incur. But I think there was another year left on this contract. So are they going to pay that back? And then is it worth it? And will these Utica fans who just lost the Canucks now have to they have to rebuy merch because they're going to call them the Utica Devils. They're going to have to get used to a whole new prospect pool. And they've been rooting for the Canucks for years because that's where all their guys went. Mm-hmm. Now they have to root for the Devils? It's not like they have to move from the Rangers to the Devils. So there's that. But I would say, and tell me if I'm wrong here, but I would say half aren't going to move. Minimum. A minimum or half are like, well, I'm already rooting for the Canucks. I'm just going to keep rooting for the Canucks. I'm just going to be a guy who lives in Utica, New York, and roots for the Canucks. It's just how, whatever. Like, I've gotten here. I want to see Elias Pettersson and Quinn Hughes. I know they both didn't play in Utica, but, they've gotten used to watching them, and they got used to staying up late to watch the games. So, they're just going to stick with them. The other half, you have to fight for a fan base. This fan base in Binghamton was just happy to have us here and was building. We were building something, even with the losing. Even with the losing, Sam, we were building something here in Binghamton. And I could see a passion from this fan base. There's people who are writing just about the Binghamton Devils. Like, that doesn't happen in a lot of markets. But Binghamton's a passionate hockey town. And you're about to take hockey away from them. And it just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And it's a misguided decision, if you ask me. I'm not in the room, so I don't like. These are decisions way above my pay grade, and it's much easier to chastise them from down here. But you have to know. You have to know that you'd have to deal with this with baby gloves. And you literally just swung Thor's hammer on the frickin' arena. You took them away this year because of the pandemic. So you don't even get a goodbye. Like, they're playing in Newark. you took a season away. So say there's a 4-year deal. You took one season away, and you're leaving a year early. So if I'm Binghamton, I am suing the pants off you. You could sue for lost revenue. You could sue to get your entry fee back. You could sue for a lot of things. So it sounds like a headache. So I don't understand, why make this decision? It seems misguided. It seems mismanaged. It seems like the wrong decision on about 45 fronts. But they made it, and now we have to, the bet is made. We have to lie in it. This team is going to be better, one would hope. Kira Schmid might come. He's been playing really well this year in net. So, Evan Cormier, the experiment with Evan Cormier is probably over. He's probably going to move to either ECHL or some European team. Or you can sign Wedgwood, like I said, and have Wedgwood play with Sen. I don't know. I feel like Binghamton got a raw deal. I feel like we made a decision that's going to cause the Devils to have less fans overall. And, we talk to the Devils. So I don't, it takes a lot for me to light a fire like this because I could burn a bridge. And that's not what I'm trying to do. I respect a lot of people in the Devils. Like you said, the marketing has been great. We talked to some of the people. We talked to some of the people who work directly for the Devils, and they're excited to talk to us, and they like talking to the fans, and like having these conversations. But when they make a bad decision, I'm not going to not call it out. And when they make a really bad decision, I'm not going to be passionate with what I say about them. And if they want to cancel interviews with us, then I feel like that's a misguided decision as well. Personally, but I run a blog, so my power is limited. I am not that important when it comes to the grand scheme of things, Sam, but I am important enough that, we got close to 5,000 followers on Twitter, so close to 5,000 followers at least. Listen to what I have to say, whether it's just to laugh at me or whether it's because they, actually want to hear what I have to say. But I'm never going to not say what I feel. And I feel like that this was a terrible decision that's going to cause you to have less fans overall when you need all the fans you can get. You got to remember that once that building is open to full capacity, you're going to want to find a way to get, 17,000 something fans in there. And if you're isolating fans with bad decisions, bad management decisions, it's going to be harder to get a sellout. And there's going to be more games where you're seeing more Rangers fans. And you had Rangers chants at the Prudential Center. It's 10% capacity. You can't fill it with Devils fans. You got Rangers chants. Rangers cheers.
Again, they don't care. We might as well call this team the New Jersey Apollos for Apollo Global Management with black jerseys, Blackstone. Because this is a hedge fund. Let's have fun with it, Nick. Maybe we should put a stock market ticker on this podcast and have it go by. It would be kind of cool though.
Listen.
It would be kind of cool if this team was traded publicly. And I have one share saying, hey, I'm the owner of the New Jersey Devils. I can say whatever I want on my own podcast because I'm an owner.
Hey, listen, I owned a little bit of Tesla earlier this year, so I guess I had a little bit of a say for a little while. But
let me tell you something, Nick. Shorts guy and I, full disclosure, because there's always the FTC rules, we have a financial interest in Dogecoin by Doge, because that's how we're going to own the team one day. I'll just go up to Joshua.
Doge went through the roof.
I know.
Doge is to the moon.
I know. I'll go up to Joshua Harris and say, hey, look, I don't have any dollars in my pocket, but I bought Doge. You want to trade? Yeah, hand over the Devils, and I'll hand over some Dogecoin. I'm just kidding around. But in all seriousness, look, the message is mixed. You know, to me, when I became a Devils fan, I became a Devils fan because the team was. I'm a big believer in defense. Uh, they were still struggling at that point to make their mark in the New York City metro area, and especially in New Jersey. Uh, the identity of this team, I don't even know what it is anymore. It was never, is it, it used to be Scott Stevens, the trap, no trap, but it was always good defensively. Martin Brodeur, great goaltending. Now it's, I don't know, young talent. I don't know what the identity is. I mean, they're obviously, it's what Scotty would say on the post game. It's like Jesper Bratt as our enforcer. You kidding me? You couldn't get another body to take care of business? Do you have to wait for Nathan Bastian to come back to drop the gloves?
I mean, if it's not Miles Wood and it's not McLeod, it's not Bastian, it's that one line. They're all in one line. They're all the people who are willing to drop the gloves. So if they're not out there, I mean, none of the defensemen fight.
Yeah.
None of them. And I'm not a big guy on fighting. I don't like fighting. Tice Thompson fought in Binghamton tonight, and that was a terrible idea. Don't fight. You're one of our big prospects. I don't want you to get a concussion, but if somebody's dropping gloves,
around. They're getting pushed around, Nick, and that's my biggest concern. I'm not trying to promote violence. What I'm saying is there's nobody sticking up for each other on the ice, and guess what happens? You get bullied around. They throw your weight around, even when you're not looking, because you're not responding back. So they're going to continue to do that, the opposing team. And what I would like to see is, not every once in a while, I would like to see it every game. If somebody blaze a body on Jack Hughes, right, and it's a questionable hit. I'm not talking about clean checks. Clean checks is fine. That's part of the game. I'm talking about, after the play, when Hughes isn't looking, you spear him. Somebody should take care of it. Shouldn't be Jack Hughes. And you can see Jack Hughes is getting feisty and mad because I know for a fact, just by his body demeanor, that he's sick of this losing. Some players.
But this goes. No, you go. Sorry. No, you go.
Some players hate losing more than they love winning. And just to see this team just again, what's I think the travesty here is we all see the talent, but there's just some certain fundamentals that I'm not seeing it sometimes, and I'm just like, I don't know about this. When's the next fire sale?
Well, I mean, look back, Sam. Look back to the last time this team was decent, right? 2017-18. Do you remember the playoffs? We played the Lightning. Nikita Kucherov, their star player, went off his skates and concussed our best defenseman, Sami Vatanen. What happened? Nothing. Their best defenseman, Victor Hedman, crotch-shotted Nico Hischier in his rookie season. What happened to Victor Hedman? Nothing. This team doesn't play that way. They don't think that way because that's not how junior hockey is played anymore. There's not a lot of grit. And do you know why, Sam?
Because they rely on analytics. That's why. It's a hedge fund. That's part of what they do.
It's part of the reason. The way that they scout now, and the way that you get popular is you put up points, you put up the statistics, you look pretty, you skate through defenses. The guys who are knit and grit, like Miles Wood, might not get, I got to look at his stats. Maybe I'm talking out of term, but, somebody like him might not get drafted. His speed will probably get him drafted. But, if you look at a guy like, like a Cam Jansen doesn't get drafted now. He goes undrafted. Maybe you sign him and you send him to Binghamton, you hope for the best, but, those aren't the players that you want because that's not how scouting works.
Yeah.
You know, you don't look for intangibles anymore. You look for the skill that you could build around. And I don't know, you know, I look at the team, Sam, right? I look at our prospects. I look at what the team will look like in 5 years. And I'm thinking about like Graham Clark, really good prospect, and Alexander Holtz, really good prospect. Dawson Mercer, really good prospect. And you got all these really good prospects, right? But they're all offensive dynamos. You can't have 12 scoring forwards because it just doesn't work. Like, that's not how hockey works. Like, on paper, it should work. If I have everyone who can score and is a pure scorer, I will have more goals than the other team. On paper, that sounds wonderful. It's glorious. I love it. It doesn't work. Hockey's not played on paper. Hockey's played on ice.
Great.
And I've never been this. I've never been with you on the where's the beef, yada, yada, yada BS. I've never been with you on that. But there's a point where there's a place for it. And they're building a team where Jesper Bratt is fighting Brad Marchand. I don't know how to say it. Whatever. The Rat. And that isn't going to work. And Michael Hay says playoff hockey is different. You know, and it's there's a truth to that. It's a grind. They're going to hit you head first into the boards. How are you going to react? Are you going to play worried they're going to hit you in the head again? Or are you going to play where you're going to, you know, hit them in the chest? I'm not saying the illegal hits. I'm not saying cross checks. I'm not saying slashes or cheap shots.
What we're saying is take the guy's license plate and get him back later. Legally. Yeah. That's exactly what we're saying. We're not, you know, again, sometimes when we talk, we're not really, like, people, you have to know that. And that's what's missing. Nobody's taking anybody's license plate number, meaning the jersey number, and having retribution back. It could be done in so many subtle ways that's within the legal, you know, gray area of the NHL rule book, right? And I just, honestly, you know, it's, again, I think you're absolutely right about just, you know, on paper, it may look good. And this is where I think, again, it's another hedge fund. You know, hedge funds, they look at other companies, they look at numbers, they look at reports, all that kind of stuff. Numbers, analytics, hockey analytics. I'm making an analogy here. But do you ever look at a company where the owner, you listen to their story, where they came from, their upbringing, and how they got to that point, and who would you invest in? It's like being an investor and investing in a company and just doing it by the paperwork versus actually interviewing the founders of the company or the people that own the company, what they can bring to the table. And it just seems like it's just so one-sided. Analytics, and you can point to the 76ers because their original GM that eventually got ousted because I believe it was either Adam Silver or David Stern had to go in and put in the Colangelos because that whole thing wasn't working out. So I'm not saying that Tom Fisher. Yeah, it was a numbers guy. Okay, I respect him. I thought it was very interesting, but at the end of the day, it was so bad that the NBA had to protect their logo because the word out on the street was tanking. That's how you win in the NBA. Tank. Get as many, you know, number one picks because basketball is a different game. All you need to do is have the big three, right? So if you get 3 first rounders, top overall, hey, you got dynasty and you can call it a day and hopefully you win a championship. Hockey doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that at all. Right?
That's the Oilers. They have the best player in the league. They couldn't make the playoffs. This is 2 seasons ago. You know, and they got knocked out in the play-in round last year. Right? Am I remembering that right? The Oilers got knocked out in the play-in round?
Yeah, that's another team that's very similar to what we are, but we're kind of like a few steps behind.
They got 3 number 1 overall picks. 4? They have 4 number 1 overall picks because they had Hall, Yakupov,
McDavid,
Nugent Hopkins, and McDavid. And on top of it, you have Leon Draisaitl. But you're right. Hockey doesn't work like basketball. Basketball, you need one guy. If, McDavid is basically, LeBron or Giannis or maybe he's Giannis because he's young or whatever. He's the best player in the league, and he's super young, and they got him. But in basketball, you need one of those guys and then build around him. And hockey doesn't work that way. You need, if you don't have a goalie, then it doesn't matter if you have McDavid. If you don't have a good defense, it doesn't matter if you have McDavid. There's just a different way, and the Devils did it the right way, but I just don't know if they did it right. You know what I mean? I don't know if those decisions are going to work because I still have 100 questions on the defense. And it's just been it's been the same question since before the Sami Vatanen trade. You know what I mean? They've just been, what do you do on defense? 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 And you've made a wrong decision after wrong decision after wrong decision. Ryan Murray was a wrong decision. PK Subban was a wrong decision. Bringing back Vatanen was the wrong decision because you got nothing for him. I'm trying to go back, but we spent multiple picks on defensemen, and then we don't have a ton to show for it outside of Ty Smith. Josh Jacobs was the wrong decision. I think that was Lou, but Colton White probably the wrong decision. Steve Santini, wrong decision, and we gave him the keys to show me what you can do. And you got to show for all this is Damon Severson, who, Sam, I wrote an article tomorrow that's I think it's a pretty good article because it goes into a lot of stats and it's basically looking at the players that really need these last 11 games and need to show something these last 11 games. And Damon Severson, I looked at his stats. If you look at his stats overall, they look pretty good. It's not, maybe he's not as bad as I thought this season. But you take out from January, whatever, when we started the season to February 28th, and you go from March 1st on, he's the worst defenseman on the team. On the team! And that includes Will Butcher. I took out Matt Tennyson because he's played 2 games or something in that time period. But he's 9th out of the 9 defensemen that have played for this team. And he's supposed to be the future and the present. He's right. He's supposed to be in his prime. And he just fell apart. And I can't explain it. He's allowed the most high danger chances. He's not contributing on offense. When you compare him to Subban, Subban's allowing a lot of chances, but he's also providing, he's starting a lot of chances for the Devils, and he's starting breakouts, and he's starting the team to get the other way. Severson's turning the puck over in the defensive zone. When the puck goes on a stick, it's not, and I have no idea why he's on the power play. I have no idea why we have 2 defensemen on either unit of the power play. It should be 4 forwards, 1 defenseman at all times. But that's another story for another day. Because we're running low on time, and I've been talking too much about so many things. But Severson has been abjectly terrible for the past 2 months. Terrible. And he needs to show something over these last 11 games to show that he can be something. The Devils are going to protect him from Seattle because they really just don't have anybody else to protect. And but if he can't figure it out, they might consider trading him because he still has value in the league. But if they trade him, Sam, you have Subban next year, and then he's a free agent. You have Ty Smith, and then you got the Binghamton defense, which has been awful. Oh, and Will Butcher, who couldn't get in the lineup as of a week ago. This defense is not good. And the hope for the future is Ty Smith, and that's it. You need 6. I have 1. I have 1 defenseman that I have any faith in for the future. You know, there's talks of re-signing Ryan Murray because who else do you have? I wouldn't hate the move, but
I hope they get the first overall pick.
so who do you
'Cause
take? We got a couple minutes left. You have a choice here with the first overall pick, and I know I cut you off, but this is an important point. Do you take the consensus? Everybody loves Owen Power, Michigan. Plays big, plays strong, he can score. There's some analytical issues with him, but, you know, the old school hockey men love them some Owen Power. Or do you take Luke Hughes? He's basically guaranteeing a brothers duo from not only a marketing standpoint, but you don't have to worry about Jack Hughes wanting to leave. You don't have to, you know, there's a lot of good that could come out of a Luke Hughes drafting. Do you go for the player that you might think might be a little bit better? Or do you go for the guarantee? You know, there's some guarantees that come with drafting like Luke Hughes.
I will say this because you pointed this out earlier in the podcast. It's almost too imbalanced with this team. I think it's been too analytics focused for a while now. I say you go back to the old school and balance it out and bring in Owen Power if you're able to have that spot. As much as I love the sexy idea of having Luke Hughes here and all those intangibles that you said, as much as I would love that, because this, you know, it's like the devil's marketing. They like to paint a story, the content, the story. It's a great story. It's a home run. But right now, we've got too much of that. How about we go back just a little bit, and I have faith in Fitzgerald to do this. Let's get some hockey back into this team, and let's start winning again. You know, it's forget about the marketing because you're going to be marketing two brothers that can't win. That's all.
Yeah.
Winning solves everything. I mean, hey, if next year if we were all wrong about this and they go, you know, 82-0 next year, hey, you know, we'll say we're sorry. But
yeah,
you know, it's a broken record. You know, I think what happened with Taylor Hall's MVP Hart Trophy, see that was a fluke. You know, even in analytics, there's always in your small sample, there's always a fluke that you kind of take out of there. If you take that season out of there, it's been bad since, you know, the New Jersey Apollos have been in business.
yeah.
And that's what I'll call it because that's what it is. And again, how else to explain it? All this losing. You know, a lot of people say, well, Lou left us the cover. Well, just keep in mind, Lou was dealing with a bankrupt franchise. You know?
Well, not when he left.
Wasn't.
Harris and Blitzer were here when he left.
Yeah, they were, but you know what? By that time, it's too late.
Yeah,
you know,
he's just over it. He wants a fresh start. He wants something new.
Yeah, so
he went to Toronto, which is like, you know, Toronto's like the pinnacle of hockey. But
yeah,
you know,
but I will say though, one last thing. I will say though that if Lou goes out and wins two cups with their new arena over in the island, he got the last laugh out of this one, and you got to give him credit there. And you know what? When Brendan Shanahan ever calls you again, Joshua Harris, don't give permission, please, or get compensation of enormous amount back. Because I'm still not.
I think they only got like a third-round pick.
Yeah, I'm still not happy. It should be really turned to like, you know, 30 picks at this point.
But before we go, and you could play the music because this shouldn't be a long answer. But I asked a question on Twitter. I don't know if you saw it. We ran a poll. If I told you that this core would win one and only one Stanley Cup, Would you accept the deal? Over the next 15 years, they're going to win one Stanley Cup and only one. Would you take the deal?
As opposed to taking a chance to win multiple or winning none?
Correct.
Of course I'll take the Stanley Cup.
You got to take the cup.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And honestly, if those, and the way I pulled it out is like, there's 4 seasons where they're contenders, 5 seasons where they're playoff contenders, and 5 seasons where they're absolutely terrible. After the last 8 years, I'll take competitive. They don't need to be cup contenders. I'll take something, hope, anything, Sam.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, winning a cup for this ownership group would go a long way. But unfortunately, we are a long way from that.
We are.
We're not even close.
But I'll plug real quick. I got that article that I just said is coming out tomorrow, pucksandpitchforks.com. I have more thoughts on the Binghamton decision that's on right now. Also, kind of a look like what should we take out of that third period. And then I wrote a fun one that everybody took way too seriously that I knew they would. But I wrote, what would it look like to press fast forward on the rebuild, Sam? How would you like a team with Jack Eichel, Alex Ovechkin, and Timo Meier on the same line? You'd like that, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
It'll cost
Why
you,
not?
though. It's going to cost you. It's like selling your soul. Anyway, that's all up on pucksandpitchforks.com right now. Then look tomorrow. 5 players that really need these 11 games. And then there'll be more. I think I'm going to have a Igor Sharangovich piece that'll right after the podcast.
Alrighty. Well, till next time, everybody. Let's go Devils!